everyone, and welcome back. Today feels a little special, doesn't it? You can almost sense the change in the air. The year is coming to an end, and something new is about to begin.
It really does, Mike. I love this time of year. There's a quiet excitement everywhere. People are thinking about what they've been through and what they hope is coming next. It's such a powerful moment.
Exactly. The new year is more than just a new date on the calendar. For many people, it feels like the end of one chapter and the beginning of another. It's a chance to pause, take a breath, and look forward.
And that's why the new year is such a wonderful topic for English learners. Everyone has something to say about it. We all celebrate in different ways, but the feelings are very similar: hope, reflection, and fresh starts.
That's so true. When we talk about the new year, we naturally talk about our lives, our plans, our celebrations, and our dreams. And when you're learning English, those are exactly the kinds of topics that help you practice real communication.
Yes, instead of memorizing random sentences, you get to talk about yourself. You get to share your experiences. That makes learning English feel more natural and meaningful.
I also think the new year brings a lot of positive energy. Even people who had a difficult year often feel a little lighter. There's this idea that anything is possible again.
I agree. It feels like a reset button. You don't have to be perfect. You don't have to change everything overnight. But you can say, "This is a new beginning, and I can take small steps forward."
And learning English works the same way. You don't become fluent in one day. But every conversation, every word you practice, moves you forward little by little.
That's such an important message. Learning a language is a journey, not a race. And it's much easier when you don't do it alone.
Exactly. That's why we love building this learning community. When you listen, practice, and share with others, English becomes something enjoyable, not stressful.
So as we step into this new year, we invite everyone to join us with an open mind. Be curious, be patient with yourself, and most importantly, enjoy the process.
Because the new year isn't about pressure. It's about possibility. And English, just like the new year, is full of new opportunities waiting for you.
Beautifully said, Mike. Let's start this new chapter together.
Jessica, now that we've talked about why the new year feels so meaningful, I think this is the perfect moment to focus on language. When people talk about the new year in English, there are a few special words they use again and again.
That's right, Mike. And learning these words can really help English learners feel more confident. Instead of searching for the right expression, you already know the language people expect to hear at this time of year.
Exactly. Let's start with one of the most common words: resolution. A resolution is a promise you make to yourself for the new year. It's something you want to improve or change.
I love that word because it's very personal. Everyone's resolution is different. Some people want to exercise more, others want to spend more time with family or learn a new skill.
That's true. And when you talk about resolutions in English, there are two useful phrases to remember. If you follow your plan, we say you keep your resolution. And if you stop or give up, we say you break your resolution.
And that's completely normal. Many people break their resolutions, and that's okay. The important thing is trying and learning about yourself along the way.
Another word you hear a lot at New Year is countdown. A countdown is when you count backwards, usually from 10, right before midnight on New Year's Eve.
Yes, that moment is so exciting. Everyone is watching the clock, counting together, and waiting for the new year to arrive. It's a shared experience that connects people.
Then at midnight, people often make a toast. In this situation, a toast is not bread. It's when you raise your glass and say something kind or hopeful before you drink.
Exactly. You might say, "To a happy new year," or "to health and success." It's a simple moment, but it feels very special.
There's also a beautiful expression people use, ring in the new year. This phrase means to celebrate the arrival of the new year.
I love that expression. It sounds joyful and festive. You can say, "We're going to ring in the new year with friends," and everyone understands the feeling behind it.
And finally, there's an idiom I really like: turn over a new leaf. This means to make a positive change in your life and start fresh.
Yes, it's a wonderful way to describe the spirit of the new year. It reminds us that change doesn't have to be dramatic. It can be gentle and hopeful.
So when English learners know these words and phrases, they're not just learning vocabulary. They're learning how to talk about real life.
Exactly. Language becomes a way to express feelings, intentions, and new beginnings. And that's what makes learning English meaningful.
Now that we've introduced those key New Year words, Jessica, this is where things really come alive. Vocabulary becomes much more powerful when we hear it in real conversation.
Absolutely, Mike. Learning a word is one thing, but hearing how people naturally use it is what truly helps learners feel confident. That's when English starts to sound real, not like a textbook.
Exactly. For example, instead of just knowing the word resolution, you hear people ask, "What's your New Year's resolution?" It's a very common and friendly question.
And it opens the door to a real conversation. You're not just practicing English anymore. You're sharing something about yourself, your goals, and your hopes.
That's why conversations about the new year are so useful. People talk about their plans for New Year's Eve, how they're going to ring in the new year, or who they'll spend it with.
Yes, and those conversations are usually relaxed and warm. Someone might say, "I'm just going to hang out with friends," or "We're having a small party at home." Simple sentences, but very natural.
And learners hear how vocabulary repeats in different ways. You might hear countdown again when someone says, "We're going to watch the countdown on TV."
Or toast when they say, "At midnight, we'll make a toast and wish everyone a happy new year." Hearing these words again and again helps them stick.
I also like how real conversations include feelings, not just information. People say things like, "I love that moment," or "It feels magical." That emotional language is important.
It really is. English isn't only about facts. It's about expressing excitement, comfort, or even preferences. Like when someone says, "I don't like big crowds, so I prefer staying home."
That's such a good point. Real conversations also show personality. Some people love loud parties while others want a quiet evening. Both are perfectly normal ways to celebrate.
And when learners hear these kinds of exchanges, they realize English doesn't have to be perfect. It just needs to be honest and clear.
Yes, you don't need complicated sentences to connect with someone. A simple, "I'm excited," or "I'm looking forward to the new year," is enough.
That's why listening to natural dialogue is so helpful. It teaches rhythm, tone, and how ideas flow from one person to another.
And over time, learners start to feel that flow themselves. They begin to respond more naturally without translating in their heads.
Exactly. Conversation is where vocabulary, emotion, and confidence all come together.
And once learners reach that point, English stops feeling like a subject to study and starts feeling like a tool for real connection.
Which is what language is meant to be in the first place.
You know, Jessica, when people talk about New Year, conversations often move beyond parties and plans. Very naturally, they start talking about family traditions.
That's true, Mike. New Year is often a time when families come together, even if it's just for a short moment. And those traditions usually carry a lot of meaning.
Exactly. I've noticed that when someone explains a tradition, they're really sharing a story. It's not just about what they do, but why they do it.
Yes, and that why is so important. For example, some families open their front door at midnight. On the surface, it's a simple action, but symbolically, it means letting the old year go and welcoming the new one.
I love that image. It feels gentle and hopeful. And when learners hear stories like that, they learn how English expresses symbolism and emotion.
Absolutely. Words like welcome, let go, and new opportunities come up naturally. These are powerful phrases, but they're used in very simple sentences.
Another tradition people love to talk about is food. Special meals often bring families together before Oro after midnight.
Yes, food traditions are everywhere. Some families believe certain foods bring luck, health, or prosperity in the new year.
And that introduces another layer of vocabulary. Words like prosperity or good fortune sound advanced, but they're often explained in very clear, everyday language.
Exactly. Someone might say, "We eat this food because it brings good luck." Simple, clear, and meaningful.
I also think talking about family traditions makes conversations warmer. You can hear it in people's voices. They slow down, they smile, and they become more reflective.
That's true. These moments feel less like small talk and more like real connection. Learners can sense that, even if they don't understand every word.
And it gives them a chance to share their own traditions. They might say, "In my family, we always eat together," or "We stay up late and talk."
Which is wonderful practice. They're using English to talk about something personal and meaningful.
Yes, and they don't need perfect grammar to do that. The message matters more than the form.
That's such an important reminder. When learners talk about traditions, they're practicing storytelling in a very natural way.
And storytelling is at the heart of communication. It helps people understand each other beyond words.
Exactly. Through family traditions, English becomes more than a language. It becomes a bridge between cultures and experiences.
And the new year is the perfect time to build that bridge.
It really is.
Building on those family traditions, Jessica, I think food deserves its own moment. When people talk about New Year, food is almost always part of the story.
Absolutely, Mike. Food is such a powerful way to bring people together. It's comforting, it's familiar, and it often carries meaning that goes beyond taste.
That's true. When someone describes a special New Year dish, they're often talking about memories, culture, and shared experiences.
Yes, and what I love is how naturally food leads to conversation. People say things like, "In my family, we always eat this," or "This dish is important to us."
And those simple sentences are perfect for English learners. They don't need complex grammar to express something meaningful.
Exactly. Food also introduces useful vocabulary in a very gentle way. Words like luck, success, or prosperity often appear when people explain why they eat certain foods.
Right, like someone might say, "We believe this food brings good luck for the new year." It's clear, simple, and full of meaning.
I also enjoy how people talk honestly about food traditions. Sometimes they admit, "I eat it for tradition, not because it's my favorite."
That honesty makes conversations feel real. It shows learners that English isn't about sounding perfect. It's about being genuine.
Food conversations also invite curiosity. When you hear about a dish you've never tried, you naturally want to ask questions.
Yes, like, what does it taste like? Or, when do you eat it? These questions are excellent practice for everyday English.
And through these questions, learners practice listening as much as speaking. They learn how conversations flow back and forth.
Another beautiful thing about food traditions is that they show how different cultures celebrate the same moment in different ways.
That's such a good point. Even though the foods are different, the intention is often the same: to welcome the new year with hope and positivity.
And when learners share their own food traditions, they're not just practicing English, they're sharing a piece of their culture.
That creates connection. It reminds us that language learning is also about understanding each other.
Exactly. Food becomes a common language. You may not know every word, but you understand the feeling.
And that feeling helps learners relax. When they feel comfortable, they speak more freely.
Which is when real learning happens.
Yes, through food, stories, and shared moments, English becomes part of real life, not just a lesson.
Building on those family traditions, Jessica, I think food deserves its own moment. When people talk about New Year, food is almost always part of the story.
Absolutely, Mike. Food is such a powerful way to bring people together. It's comforting, it's familiar, and it often carries meaning that goes beyond taste.
That's true. When someone describes a special New Year dish, they're often talking about memories, culture, and shared experiences.
Yes, and what I love is how naturally food leads to conversation. People say things like, "In my family, we always eat this," or "This dish is important to us."
And those simple sentences are perfect for English learners. They don't need complex grammar to express something meaningful.
Exactly. Food also introduces useful vocabulary in a very gentle way. Words like luck, success, or prosperity often appear when people explain why they eat certain foods.
Right. Someone might say, "We believe this food brings good luck for the new year." It's clear, simple, and full of meaning.
I also enjoy how people talk honestly about food traditions. Sometimes they admit, "I eat it for tradition, not because it's my favorite."
That honesty makes conversations feel real. It shows learners that English isn't about sounding perfect. It's about being genuine.
Food conversations also invite curiosity. When you hear about a dish you've never tried, you naturally want to ask questions.
Yes, like, what does it taste like? Or when do you eat it? These questions are excellent practice for everyday English.
And through these questions, learners practice listening as much as speaking. They learn how conversations flow back and forth.
Another beautiful thing about food traditions is that they show how different cultures celebrate the same moment in different ways.
That's such a good point. Even though the foods are different, the intention is often the same, to welcome the new year with hope and positivity.
And when learners share their own food traditions, they're not just practicing English. They're sharing a piece of their culture.
That creates connection. It reminds us that language learning is also about understanding each other.
Exactly. Food becomes a common language. You may not know every word, but you understand the feeling.
And that feeling helps learners relax. When they feel comfortable, they speak more freely.
Which is when real learning happens.
Yes, through food, stories, and shared moments, English becomes part of real life, not just a lesson.
After talking about food and traditions, Jessica, it feels natural to move to something more personal. For many people, the new year is also about setting goals and thinking about change.
Yes, Mike. This is the moment when people pause and ask themselves, what do I want to improve? That question alone opens up so many meaningful conversations.
And in English, one word appears almost immediately in those conversations: resolution. It's a word people associate strongly with the new year.
That's right. A resolution is a promise you make to yourself. It doesn't have to be big or dramatic. Sometimes it's just a small habit you want to build.
I like how resolutions often reflect what matters most to someone. Some people want to exercise more, others want to save money or spend more time with loved ones.
And when learners talk about resolutions, they're practicing very useful language. Phrases like, "I want to," "I plan to," or "I'm trying to" appear naturally.
Yes, and they also learn that English allows room for honesty. People often say, "I try every year," or "I'm not very good at keeping my resolutions."
That honesty is comforting. It shows learners that it's okay to be imperfect, both in life and in language.
Another important idea that comes up is being realistic. Many people have learned that if a resolution is too difficult, they break it quickly.
Exactly. So you often hear sentences like, I'm starting small, or I don't want to put too much pressure on myself.
Those phrases are so useful. They help learners talk about balance and self-awareness.
And then there are common expressions like get in shape. It's a very natural way to talk about health without going into too much detail.
Right. You don't need medical vocabulary. Simple phrases are enough to communicate your goals.
I also love how resolution conversations often turn into encouragement. One person shares a goal, and the other responds with support.
Yes, you hear things like, that sounds great, or I believe you can do it. Those responses build connection.
And for learners, that's powerful. They're not just learning how to state goals, but also how to respond kindly to others.
Which is an important part of communication.
Absolutely. Through talking about resolutions, English becomes a language of growth, reflection, and mutual support.
And that makes the new year feel even more meaningful.
It really does.
You know, Jessica, after people talk about resolutions, the conversation often shifts again. Very naturally, they start talking about New Year's Day itself.
That's true, Mike. New Year's Day feels very different from New Year's Eve. The excitement is quieter, softer, almost reflective.
Exactly. After staying up late, many people say they like to sleep in on New Year's Day.
Yes, and that's such a useful phrase for learners. Sleep in simply means waking up later than usual, but it sounds very natural in conversation.
It does. And when people talk about sleeping in, they're usually talking about rest. The body and the mind both need a pause after all the celebrations.
I agree. New Year's Day often feels calm. When you wake up, there's a quiet sense that something new has started.
That feeling is hard to describe, but people often say things like, it feels like a fresh start.
Or they say, the year feels wide open. Those expressions are emotional, but they're still simple and easy to understand.
I like how New Year's Day gives people permission to slow down. There's no rush. No big plans are required.
Yes, and that balance is important. Some people want to start their resolutions immediately. Others just want to rest and enjoy the day.
And both choices are perfectly fine. There's no right or wrong way to spend New Year's Day.
That idea is comforting, especially for learners. English conversations don't always need strong opinions. Sometimes it's okay to simply share how you feel.
Exactly. Someone might say, I'm taking it easy today, or I just want a quiet day at home.
Those sentences are short, but they express a lot. Peace, comfort, and intention.
New Year's Day. Conversations often include routines too. People talk about having breakfast late or enjoying a relaxed brunch.
And brunch is such a great word. It immediately creates a picture: family, food, and slow conversation.
Yes, and these small details help learners understand how language paints everyday life.
What I really love about New Year's Day is the emotional space it creates. People think less about what they must do and more about what they want to feel.
That's beautifully said, and when learners hear these kinds of conversations, they learn that English can be gentle.
It doesn't always have to be fast or dramatic.
Sometimes English is quiet, reflective, and thoughtful, just like New Year's Day itself.
And in those quiet moments, language feels very human.
It really does. Jessica, after those quiet New Year's Day moments, conversations often widen. People start looking beyond their own homes and talk about how the new year is celebrated around the world.
That's true, Mike. It's fascinating how the same moment in time can feel so different depending on where you are.
Exactly. And when people talk about global traditions, the conversation naturally becomes curious and open-minded.
Yes, curiosity plays a big role here. You hear people say things like, in my country, we do this, or I heard that in another place, people celebrate like that.
Those sentences are wonderful for learners. They're simple, but they open the door to cultural exchange.
I love how sharing traditions helps people see both differences and similarities. For example, some countries have big street celebrations with fireworks and music.
And others focus more on symbolic actions, small rituals that carry a lot of meaning.
Right. When people explain these traditions, they often slow down. They choose their words carefully because they want to be understood.
That's such a valuable moment for learners. They hear clear language, thoughtful explanations, and respectful listening.
And the reactions are important too. People respond with phrases like, "That's interesting," or "I didn't know that."
Those responses show engagement. They're polite, curious, and easy to use.
Exactly. Learners realize that they don't need advanced vocabulary to show interest in another culture.
I also think global New Year traditions remind us that celebration isn't always loud. Sometimes it's quiet and meaningful.
Yes. Whether people gather in the streets or stay close to home, the intention is often the same, welcoming the new year with hope.
And when learners hear about traditions from different countries, it often encourages them to share their own.
That's when English becomes a bridge. One person shares, another listens, and understanding grows.
I love that image. A bridge built with simple sentences and shared curiosity.
Me too. It shows learners that language doesn't have to separate people. It can connect them.
And New Year's the perfect topic for that. Everyone celebrates it even if they do it differently.
That universality makes learners feel included. They realize, I belong in this conversation.
Exactly. And that sense of belonging gives them confidence to speak.
Which is so important. Confidence doesn't come from knowing every word. It comes from feeling accepted.
And global traditions teach us that there's more than one right way to celebrate and more than one way to express ourselves.
That's such a powerful lesson, both for language and for life.
It really is. After talking about traditions around the world, Jessica, conversations often turn inward again. People start reflecting on the year that has just passed.
Yes, Mike. Reflection feels very natural at this time. When the year ends, many people pause and look back at their journey.
And in English, the word reflection is used a lot. It means thinking carefully about experiences, not just remembering them, but understanding them.
That's such an important distinction. Reflection isn't about judging yourself. It's about learning.
Exactly. People often ask themselves questions like, what went well? Or what was difficult this year?
Those questions invite honesty. They allow people to acknowledge both success and struggle.
And when people talk about challenges, another useful word appears, overcome. To overcome something means you faced a difficulty and moved through it.
I love that word. It sounds strong, but it doesn't need a dramatic story. Even small challenges can be overcome.
Yes, someone might say, I overcame my fear, or I overcame a hard time at work.
Those sentences are powerful, but they're still simple. They show learners how English can express growth.
Reflection also leads to gratitude. Many people realize that even in difficult years, there are things to be thankful for.
That's true. Gratitude shifts the focus from what was missing to what was present.
And in English, people express gratitude in very natural ways. They say, I'm grateful for my family, or I'm thankful for the support I received.
Those phrases are gentle and sincere. They don't need complex grammar.
I also notice that reflection often slows conversations down. People speak more thoughtfully with more pauses.
Yes, the tone becomes softer. It's less about explaining and more about sharing.
That's such a valuable listening experience for learners. They hear not just words, but emotion.
And they realize it's okay to speak slowly, meaning doesn't come from speed.
Exactly. Reflection teaches patience, both in life and in language learning.
I think that's why many people choose to write during this time. Journals, notes, or simple lists.
Writing helps organize thoughts, and it gives people a chance to express themselves honestly.
For learners, that's an invitation too. They can reflect in English even with simple sentences,
And through reflection, English becomes a tool for understanding yourself
which makes learning it feel deeply personal.
and very meaningful.
It truly is.
After all that reflection, Jessica, conversations often move towards something gentle and encouraging. People start thinking about what comes next and how they want to step forward.
Yes, Mike. There's a quiet sense of hope at this point. It's not loud or dramatic. It's calm, but very strong.
And this is where the new year feels less like a single day and more like a mindset.
Exactly. People realize that change doesn't happen instantly. It happens through small, consistent actions.
That idea connects beautifully to learning English. Progress comes from showing up again and again, even when it feels slow.
I completely agree. When learners hear that, they often feel relief. They understand they don't have to be perfect.
And conversations at this stage often include encouragement, simple words like, keep going, or you're doing great.
Those phrases may sound small, but they carry a lot of warmth. They remind people they're not alone.
That sense of community is powerful. Whether it's family, friends, or learners around the world, connection makes growth easier.
And language plays such a big role in building that connection. Even simple English can create understanding.
I also notice that people begin to speak about the future with openness rather than pressure.
Yes, they say things like, I hope, or I'm looking forward to, instead of making strict demands of themselves.
Those phrases leave room for flexibility and kindness.
Which is exactly what learners need. Language grows best in a supportive environment.
And that's why inviting participation matters. When people are encouraged to share, they feel seen.
That's true. Saying, tell us about your goals, opens the door. It invites expression without fear.
And even making mistakes becomes part of the process, not something to avoid.
Mistakes are signs of effort, not failure.
I think that's one of the most important messages of the new year.
Me too. Every year gives us another chance to try, to learn, and to grow.
And English, like the new year, is full of possibilities.
It really is. One word at a time, one conversation at a time.
So as we step forward, we do it with patience and hope.
And with the understanding that small steps matter.
Because they always do.
They truly do.